Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Lynn, the cosplayer, and if you haven't seen any of my videos, usually I come on here and talk to you guys about fun hobby cosplayer subjects. So today we are going to be keeping the trend of talking about controversial cosplay subjects, and I'm going to talk about my next opinion today regarding them. You will notice that I'm not wearing any makeup and I'm just in like a t-shirt. I came back from vacation like a week ago, and honestly it takes me so long to like get back in like the focused good energy headspace. When I come back I am a little tired. I am doing like 10,000 million things this week, but I wanted to come on here and talk about today's subject, where we are going to discuss the wild world of influencers in the cosplay community. Now, there are so many influencers out there who have a main focus on things that involve cosplay, but there's so many different types. And when I talk about my opinion today, I want to include kind of like any type of influencer that does cosplay. So like anyone that does a certain type of crafting, someone that does competitions, someone that has like brands that they sell, someone that sells tutorials, just someone that has a lot of views and a wider audience on social media platforms. So this is going to be an interesting subject to talk about, because I know that a lot of people have really different opinions based on how long they've been doing cosplay and what they've seen in the community. So I have been doing cosplay since my preteens in the mid-2000s, and I can definitely say that the world of cosplay, like what cosplay started like versus what it's like today, is so different in so many ways. Eventually, I'm going to do a video where I talk about every change that I have noticed in the community and as like doing cosplay as a whole, from when I started in 2007 to when I'm doing cosplay now in 2002. And I think that'll be really interesting for you guys, especially any cosplayers out there who are like newer and don't really know like the history behind cosplay. It might be kind of interesting. But today we are going to talk about the reason that I believe influencer culture is kind of ruining cosplay. And I usually start my video off by saying what my broad opinion is about this subject, because I'm not sponsored or affiliated with any things, events, or brands, so I can actually honestly say my real opinions. I don't have to sugarcoat things. I don't have to talk about things with like rose-tinted glasses. I can give you guys like my negative opinions and be like brutally honest. So I hope you guys really like that, because it's very rare nowadays to hear people's honest, real opinions without an ad right in between. So, man, okay. First off, I am going to talk about 3 things that I think everyone should keep in mind whenever they are looking at influencers' content. So when you are endlessly scrolling through TikTok at the end of the day, or whether you start your morning cup of coffee scrolling through Instagram, there are 3 things that you should always keep in mind. Number 1, what you see isn't the whole story, and most of the time what you see isn't even real, like in any aspect or any way. There are so many ways that I could describe this, but I think the best one being, I saw a video that someone posted who was an aspiring influencer, and it was talking about a certain location in California where people would hike to and get poses of them like doing yoga or something on a big rock. And this girl was taking a selfie of herself like with the background and somebody getting their picture taken back there. And when she turned around, you could see there was an entire line of like 20 to 30 people with photographers waiting in this massive line at sunrise to get their Instagram cool yoga pose spot on that rock and picture. So when you're seeing someone's really awesome cosplay in like a really cool place or like at an event and it looks like there is no one else around, a lot of times there are many people around, and this person is kind of using up space they maybe necessarily shouldn't be. And a lot of times when you also see costumes photographed online, most of it's not real because of Photoshop and Facetune and BodyTune, which I will talk about later. So don't feel bad when you see someone's super awesome picture that you can't do, because chances are they're not really doing it either. Okay, number 2 thing to always keep in mind is that influencers have an agenda. Whether it's money, whether it's winning contests, whether it's getting recognition, whether it's getting into the inner circle of people that do cosplay, there is a reason why they are doing influencing type cosplay, not just hobby cosplay, but they want to gain something from it. That doesn't necessarily make them bad people. It doesn't make what they're doing bad, but you have to keep that in mind when you are seeing someone that releases content every single day and wondering why you don't have the time or energy to do the same things they do. Most of the time, we go online to decompress and to entertain ourselves. Influencers go online because that's literally their jobs. They're there to make money, or they have an agenda that they are trying to do. The third thing to always keep in mind is that positive content does not always equal positive outcomes in your own life. So just because someone posts online that they are doing healthy lifestyle changes, or they're creating all the time, or they've, have really awesome positive things going on in their life, does not mean that seeing that is going to make you feel good. And in fact, most of the time when people are online, they're comparing themselves to like whose content they're viewing. And that can be a really dangerous hole to fall into. So there is always the option to just unfollow someone. So if you are constantly finding yourself following people that do cosplay that just make you feel really bad about your own cosplay, or make you feel upset, or like you're not really getting anything positive from it, just unfollow them. There is no reason to keep up with that. No reason at all. Okay, so we're going to talk about why do I think that influencers are ruining cosplay. Now, I want to be very specific when I say this. I don't think it's influenced individually. I think it is the culture that is behind influencers that's actually changing and starting to ruin cosplay. The people themselves aren't necessarily responsible for that. Like, there's a whole culture behind doing influencing. There's so much behind the scenes that people don't necessarily know about. And you can't really blame someone for finding a way to make money that is a little bit easier than other jobs, or encompasses something that they just makes them feel good to make money that way. Like, I don't blame any individual influencer, because honestly, if someone wanted to pay me $1 million to make wacky videos and talk, I don't know if I would say no to that. I don't think most of us would. So here's what I do think influencer culture is really ruining about cosplay. The first thing being that costume making standards have risen so high that I think it is completely ridiculous for us to expect a beginner cosplayer to immediately jump in and start doing foam work with EVA foam and 3D printing and resin casting. That is ridiculous. When I started doing cosplay in the early to mid 2000s, doing cosplay encompassed a lot of creativity that was also very low cost, and a lot of times recycling or reusing things in those cosplays. The first cosplay I ever did was a Fire Nation Katara, and I made the entire thing out of bed sheets. I didn't know how to use a sewing machine yet, so I actually hand sewed the entire thing. So it was a complicated, timely costume to make, but I learned a lot of lessons in it, and I still had a lot of fun doing that. Now you see beginner cosplayers now being forced into a spot where it's kind of like they're expected to use these tools and techniques that normally for most other cosplayers would have taken us years of research and practice to really even gain the courage to be able to do them in a costume. Now, I do think it's really cool that if you are already skilled in one area and you do cosplay, to like use that one area towards your cosplays. So like if you already do woodwork, why not do cosplays that can feature that woodwork? Or if you already do a lot of like sculpting and things like that, I think that's really awesome. But what I mean is that we don't want the standards for cosplay to start off so high, because it starts to affect the rest of the community as well. Now, the other thing is that people have started to digitally edit their costumes to perfection. And by doing that, by having influencers that release digitally edited content constantly, we get a lot of confusion over what materials actually do what and how they actually look, and like what's realistic to use in a costume. So a lot of female cosplayers, when we have a strapless top that we wear, we typically have to wear some sort of like invisible straps to hold it up. No matter what your bust size is, most girls don't want a top slipping down throughout the day, or they don't want to feel like it's a little more like not as safe to have a top that's not totally attached to you. But a lot of influencers will take these little invisible straps and stuff and they'll Photoshop them out and then never mention that they did it, or they will Photoshop out certain things of fabrics, or they will Photoshop in certain fabrics to look a certain way. And it just presents a lot of confusion over how costumes actually look in real life, because the content you're seeing online looks so different than like a real life costume. The other thing is that because of standards being raised so high in the cosplay community, competitions are becoming very unfair. It is really hard to compete in a beginner's category of a cosplay competition on stage when all the other beginners cast their own resin, did all this hand painting work, and did, all this stuff that is like, who has the time to learn every single skill needed to make a single cosplay? There's a reason why many cosplayers will make like the bulk of their costume, but they hire someone else to make the tail and ears, or they hire someone to do the shoes, or they buy a certain piece, or they buy it and alter it. Because honestly, if you're making everything from scratch, that's a lot of time, effort, and a lot of different skills that have to be used. Most beginners start by doing a trial and error sort of situation, by kind of using materials they're kind of unfamiliar with, but like testing it out and maybe tweaking it. I remember doing Fire Nation Katara. I used a lot of cardboard in that costume. Her like gold bracelets were actually made out of Starbucks coffee sleeves that were turned inside out. And then I spray painted them gold because it was like the same, I don't know what you call it, kind of like accordion pattern on the outside. And I thought they looked awesome. But if I were to enter that into a beginner category in a cosplay competition now, I wouldn't even get in. Like, that's how high the standards are. They want you to start higher and higher up. And I think what's going on is that influencers have really, really changed the game because of the content they release. It's like everyone's bars are getting raised higher and higher each time. Okay, next we are going to talk about the beauty and bodies aspect of influencers. And this is, I'm going to just warn you guys, we're going to go into this pretty hard. I'm going to talk very honestly about this subject. Facetune and BodyTune has honestly become the new normal. Going into Photoshop or facetuning or body tuning yourself to actually look like an anime character is not seen as weird or alien anymore. It has become like totally normal. I have seen so many freaking TikToks of girls who have altered their busts and their waists to just look so not human-like, I guess, and then passing it off as that's just what their bodies naturally look like. And that's really scary because the technology is out there that looks so real. Like, our eyes cannot determine what is real and what's not anymore. Because of that, I do feel like many influencers are promoting some really severe body dysmorphia in the cosplay community, and they're not talking about that. I totally understand that what you release is, it's up to you what you want to release and how you want to release it and what you look like in those photos or videos. But if you get a big enough audience, I do think there is a responsibility about making sure that what you're promoting to your audience isn't unhealthy or mentally not healthy. And most cosplay influencers don't give two shits. Like, I'm sorry to tell you guys, that influencer that you follow that drops all those really awesome pictures does not care about your physical or mental health. They care about the views that they're getting, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get those views. Now, there was a cosplay influencer that I followed a while back that I was really into because I found that our personalities were extremely similar. You know, we were girls who had grown up younger, liking really nerdy stuff and kind of getting a little bit bullied, I guess, like having a small group of friends, but most of us kind of weird artists, anime loving people kind of had trouble fitting in. And she also did a lot of fine artwork like I do, drawing and painting. And, I found that when I would watch her content, it made me really happy because it felt like watching a friend. But she developed really severe ideas of body dysmorphia and did something that I found to be really unforgivable, which was to get plastic surgery, which she then promoted to her audience without mentioning that she was dealing with active body dysmorphia at the time. So if you can only imagine, if you're in a very bad mental headspace, that is not the time to determine if plastic surgery is a good path to take, because you are not making a decision in sound mind at that moment. Like if you and if you are around people that are letting you make decisions like that, knowing that there is something going on with you and you probably need to get help, those are not your real friends. I have to tell you that much. But to see her promote that to an audience and go through, I mean, I understand the pressure as a female in the cosplay community to look a certain way in order to garner attention. But seeing her promote that and me wondering, I wonder how many young girls she influenced to go get plastic surgery who were battling with similar mental issues to her without ever disclosing that she was battling those things. Like, there is a really healthy way that we can talk about certain subjects to our audience, but not by saying I hurt myself because I feel bad about myself and you guys should hurt yourselves too. Like, I do not think that's acceptable at all. And unfortunately, I had to unfollow her because I felt she was promoting really severe body dysmorphia. I felt like the type of surgeries she got didn't look normal. I felt like they were almost comical, I guess. And it made me feel like a very odd way. Like, I felt bad, but I also felt like this is not the type of content I want in my life. So when we have influencers that are so big, that have audience of 1 million people out there that are watching them, that are being influenced by them, and they do something that hurts themselves or is promoting body dysmorphia, what do you do? Like, there's no way to really stop them. All you can do is spread knowledge and awareness of that with, the rest of the community. The other thing is that influencers have kind of turned cosplay into more about getting really awesome pictures versus actually creating cosplay and kind of like what cosplay is all about. Like, I know to everyone, cosplay has a different meaning. Some people do it because it's a social activity. For me, it's very social. I probably wouldn't do cosplay. Like, if every convention and cosplay activity went away and never came back, I probably would stop doing cosplay because going to conventions is like what I'm here for, I guess. But when we have influencers that are releasing massive amounts of edited pictures all the time, it kind of makes you start to question about, like, okay, it's really awesome you got these great pictures, but like why are you even doing this? Are you just showing off? Are you trying to model it? Like, what's the reasoning, I guess, behind that? And it started to make me realize that most of the time we're going back to that whole Instagram influencer thing about getting the perfect yoga picture on that rock, even though you've never done freaking yoga in your entire life. You've never done one single chaturanga. So yeah, I just felt like there's kind of like a fakeness to that. Okay, let's go on to the next part where I'm going to talk about competitiveness and elitism. Now, elitism is something we have always dealt with in the cosplay community from when it first started to all the way we are now. But with influencers being thrown into the mix, elitism is taking on kind of a new face of what that looks like. So when your job is to get views and have people look at you, like you are actually making money off this, or you have, like I said, an agenda that you're trying to get recognition or win awards, everyone who does your hobby is your competitor. And it really sucks. I feel like as nice and kind as you can be, if you're an influencer, every other influencer is now your enemy, and it really sucks. You can, help promote them. You can be a positive influence. You can push people towards their channel. You can partner with them. But in the end, like, unless you're getting something from them, then there is kind of going to be a natural air of competitiveness there. And most people have found that doing cosplay is already a little bit naturally competitive, just because when you go to a convention, you're walking around with like hundreds of other people in a costume, and you're literally trying to be the main anime character in real life with hundreds of other people that are trying to be the main anime character in real life. It's kind of funny, like when you watch an anime and you see everyone in the school classroom, but then there's like that one guy with like blue hair, or that one girl with like pink ponytail, and you're like, okay, obviously it's like the main character trope, like they look different and unique and interesting. So imagine you get enough people in a room together that are like that, there's going to be some competitiveness because it's like the look at me aspect. But again, when it's your job, when you have an agenda, that becomes a different level of competitiveness. And I have seen a lot of people tearing each other down online because of that. And oh man, it's not pretty. When we also have that, competitiveness, we start to get weird, like, partnerships and friend groups that are extremely fake in the cosplay community as well. So it's kind of funny, watching back in Sci-Fi Channel, watching Heroes of Cosplay. If you guys remember that show, I went through like a brief period where I was super, super into it. I watched it like 2 or 3 times all the way through. I was just so entranced by the fact they had a TV show about a hobby that I have done that has like never been popular, that now suddenly like is popular. I don't know, it kind of blew my mind, I guess. But in that show, it was quite clear they tried to make a lot of friendships and partnerships between cosplayers who literally had nothing in common and really could care less about each other, and it felt extremely weird and fake. Almost like when you are at work and you have to make friends with people because you work with them even though secretly you really hate them. That's kind of like what it feels like. On Instagram, I see a lot of cosplayers doing, like for like or share for share, which just means they share something of yours to their audience, so you have to share something of theirs. And if you make money from doing this, it's probably a really good way to get more views for free, but it also feels very fake. And to all of us out there who are watching these influencers, it kind of feels dumb. Like, I don't care about this random chick cosplayer that you're trying to share. I'm following you for your content, and by you randomly sharing people's stuff, it just makes me think that you're kind of like a fake person. Maybe I don't want to follow you anymore. So the weird fake friend groups or fake share for share, like for like I said before, what you see online is not necessarily real or true. Just because someone's calling them out and being like, oh my God, thank you so much, or I love your work, or this cosplayer is super awesome, you should go check her out. You don't even know if they've seen any of their content. Who even knows? No one knows. It's a mystery. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about, which I think is actually one of the most important parts of why I feel like influencers are ruining cosplay, is the fact that there are so many veils over what is considered to be realistic parts of an average hobby cosplayer's life. So the way that influencer cosplayers present cosplay to like the world is nothing like what doing cosplay is actually like. And that's why I tend to follow what I feel like are more down to earth cosplay influencers, like ones that actually talk about like their daily life or what they do in the background, or maybe cosplay isn't like their own subject, like their only life habit, like they do lots of other things that they also talk about. Because I also feel like when cosplay influencers are talking about costumes they're making or they're taking pictures of those costumes, it's never clear if the costumes are actually worn at a convention ever, or if they're even wearable like out in public. Like, I have seen so many influencers release this super awesome bomb costume that they did, and it looks amazing. And then I think about it, I'm like, there is no way that they could get that up an escalator or even in an elevator, or that they could even wear it to a convention because it's not really like appropriate or something. And I just think about that. I'm like, it's so weird that people do costumes promoting themselves as like the average like neighbor next door cosplayer when they couldn't even wear it to a convention. It's one of those things that when you're deep enough in the hobby, you can recognize like kind of a fake from far away. And then it makes you kind of wonder about that and think like, I wonder if they even wear like costumes to conventions, or is it only when they're making money? Do they even do this for fun? Have they ever even done this for fun? It's like the rabbit hole. You don't know how deep it goes. Oh, I need some water. When I get heated, I have to drink something. I think we can all figure out that reviews and sponsorships, holy crap. You guys, I am so annoyed by how much of YouTube is flooded by tutorials or recommendations for cosplay brands or like partners or even just crafting supplies that is total freaking BS. Like, these cosplayers are sponsored by this company and sent loads and loads of free products to do a review of, or to do like a, oh, I love to use this, let me show you how I use this. In reality, you can get the product for half the price by just not buying name brand, or by using something else that like 99% of the cosplay community does, but they're not talking about that. They're talking about like what they're making money from. And I also hate this because I use YouTube a lot to watch creation tutorials when I'm doing cosplay. And it really bugs me the fact that I not only have to sit through YouTube ads, then I have to sit through all the sponsorships that the cosplayers have to talk about, but then I get to the actual tutorial itself and I'm like, okay, like the tutorial doesn't even make sense. What you were talking about is obviously what you're being paid to talk about, but it's not a good tutorial. And as we all know, with YouTube getting rid of the dislike button, it's really hard to tell the fake tutorials from the real ones or from like the better ones. Man, yeah, dishonesty, I am not for it. The other thing that we're going to talk about is, let's talk about influencers glorifying things that are considered to be distasteful habits in the cosplay community. When I was very young and impressionable, when I was in middle school and high school, and I got into doing cosplay, I actually thought that cosplay, like con crunch, you know, working on a costume literally the week before the convention and like staying up all night and feeling like crap, that was to be expected. That was normal because everyone else was doing it. I come to find out that seasoned cosplayers don't do that shit. They don't share their hotel room with 10 other people. They don't work on a costume, you know, a few days before a convention and like stay up the night before and bring their sewing machine to conventions. The people that are doing that are doing it for the drama and the attention. And it's kind of bullshit that no one is calling this out in the cosplay community. Now, have we had a piece of cosplay show up like the night before a convention and freak us out? Yeah. Have we gone through something where we've needed to repair something last minute? Yes. But most people are not like, you know what? I think I want to cosplay a Tokyo Mew Mew character, and I know it's 3 days before the convention, but I think I can just con crunch, guys, and let me go spend $300 on supplies and stay up for 2 days in a row right before this massive convention. No one is like that. And when people promote themselves like that, it confuses the rest of the community going, I'm so lost. Like, is everyone doing that? Like, where am I? What is going on? Most cosplayers are fairly like responsible, normal people, and we do this for fun. We're not doing this to torture ourselves. And if you are torturing yourself, I really feel that you're doing it incorrectly. Let's see some other distasteful habits. Constant travel, constantly going to conventions, constantly dropping a ton of money to go to conventions. Those things are not normal. It's not really normal to go to a convention every single month and also to compete all the time. Honestly, if someone's doing that, I kind of wonder how they keep up with their, physical activity and exercise and eating well and like staying in touch with friends and family and having a life outside of cosplay and going on vacation. Like, life is already so busy. If you are doing cosplay to that, excessiveness, maybe mention that to your audience how you can or why. Like, did you quit your job because you're making so much money doing this? Like, give us some context there, because that's not really a habit you should be promoting. The other bad habits I've also seen has been a extreme amount of consumerism. So like glorifying getting massive amounts of products that you will never use, or making massive amounts of costumes you will never wear. So this is something that I have seen almost every influencer that does cosplay do, which is constantly releasing new cosplay content, when I'm thinking, how the hell are you getting a new costume every 2 weeks for years on end? Where are they going? Do they just sit in your closet collecting dust? Do you like sell them? Do you send them to people? Do companies buy them from you? Like, I always wonder where they go. And I understand people who are hired by companies to constantly be releasing new costumes, but we're going into an era of needing to understand that like the way that we buy things and recycle things and use things will affect the earth for a very long time. And I think it's a really good time that we start talking about that in the cosplay community and understanding it's okay to rewear costumes. It's okay to re-cosplay a character you've done before. In fact, I think it's awesome if you are constantly improving the same costume versus tossing it and buying a new one every single time. The other thing is that every convention should be like a whole new world. You don't have to become a whole new character for it each time, if that makes sense. Also, you know, just getting massive amounts of makeup and massive amounts of wigs and massive amounts of storage for all your massive amounts of cosplay. It's a really weird habit to be promoting to an audience that honestly, most of us don't do that. And like 99% of us couldn't afford to do that. Kind of weird. The last thing that I think is kind of the negative habit that they really glorify is the boss babe or grinding attitude, which means if you love something, you would be doing it all the time. Or if you love something, you'd make money from it. You'd make it into a business. So you must not love it enough if you're not doing that. Or hashtag boss babe, hashtag boss babe. I really freaking hate that whole tag. I think it's really stupid. I think it glorifies the need to make everything be about getting attention or making money from it. A hobby is a hobby. And actually, a really interesting thing I heard the other day was you don't have to be good at a hobby to do it. Has anyone ever thought about that? Like, you don't have to be good at making cosplay to do cosplay. In fact, most people that do cosplay don't, because you buy cosplay from other artists that are super awesome at it and want to make money off it. Like, supporting each other, supporting the community as a whole. That's a cool idea. Why don't we try that? Okay, guys, now that I have had this very heated video, I'm going to end it here. But I hope I gave you some things to think about in the cosplay influencing world. And maybe the next time you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram, you'll stop and take a second to ask yourself, is this the content I really want to see? How is this affecting my life? And do I agree with what they release? And if not, maybe you'll choose to hit the unfollow button or choose to seek out smaller cosplayers that are doing cosplay for more positive reasons. So I will see you guys back here for the next video. Have a good day, guys, and we'll talk soon.